So, one of the things that I wanted to spend just a few minutes talking with you about is setting spiritual boundaries. Really important. And as you continue on your path, um, we're talking in this particular module about establishing practices that will allow you to go deeper in your own spiritual walk. Okay. And boundaries just has to be a part of that conversation. So, one thing that I want you to watch for, and then I'll go into some specific strategies for setting those spiritual boundaries. But one thing that I want you to watch for, sometimes as we're sort of clearing things out and we're getting reoriented in terms of how we're perceiving the world and understanding the world, how we're navigating the world, we can get to a point where we are starting to feel good, feel really good. And we're learning to like maintain more of a high vibe existence. And being in that space feels wonderful, can feel peaceful. And sometimes there might be a tendency to just kind of pull back and to isolate because we want to keep feeling good. And when we go out into the world, we bump into stuff that throws us off. So you're like, okay, you know what? I'm just going to sit in my room and be in a state of bliss. So I want to point out something really, really important. And that is the fact that life is the practice. Life is your spiritual practice. Okay. And so we just want to be mindful of that. So it's in the interacting with people, it's in the going out and bumping into walls and bumping into situations that we get the stuff that helps us to grow. Okay. So we don't want to pull back. We want to just make sure that we're building our spiritual muscles in such a way that when we do go out into the world, we're not completely thrown off. And we have experiences that deepen us and allow us to stay on track, okay, but not just throw us off. So, as a part of that, like I said, what we want to do is establish good boundaries that will allow us to do that and allow us to get the create the space to get that strength and to build our spiritual muscles in the way that we need to. Okay, I hope that makes sense. All right, so I want to cover one, two, three, four strategies for setting those spiritual boundaries. So the first one is setting your intentions. Okay. And we talked about setting your intentions with, I think, the very first video, but we're coming back to it because the way that you use it as a spiritual boundary in this context is like this. At the top of your day, you're setting your intention. You're creating a boundary around yourself. You're saying, this is who I am choosing to be, how I'm choosing to show up. And that helps you to get clear on where the boundaries are. So as you're walking, again, you're clear in your intention. An example from my own life, every morning before I hit the floor, I say an intention. And it's, you can call it an intention, a prayer, whatever terminology works. But mine is this. I offer gratitude for the day. And then I say, thank you for this day. Please guide me in it. Use me to serve your people. And with every interaction, let there be love. Okay, that's my intention. I say it every day. Sometimes I shift it up a little bit, just depending on what I need. But every day, I'm starting with an intention, and that sets the boundaries for me. So I'll know the container that I want to be in. So if I'm having an interaction with someone and it's not feeling loving, then this intention helps me to remember that. It helps me to go back to, again, creating that container. Okay. So that was the first one. The second one is creating spaces around you that are sacred. Okay. Create sacred spaces. And your space, like everyone should have some space in their home that is sacred. It's a space where you have things that are high vibing, high frequency, sacred, again, whatever terminology works for you. It might be something meaningful that someone gifted to you at some point, maybe a cross. Um, it can be crystals. It can be a feather that you found on a path when you were hiking one day that has a lot of meaning to you. So anything that you deemed sacred or again, high vibe in some way. And you just put that in your sacred space. My office is my sacred space. You see, this is my office. And I have so many beautiful things around me that lift me. On my shelf over there, I have two bracelets that my sister-in-law gave me sometime last year, but they're my mom's bracelets. And I didn't even know they existed. And it was just kind of out of the blue that I got them, but they were the perfect offering for the space. They, even the colors, they're black and red. And that's part of my brand and my theme. So anyway, that's one of the things I have in my sacred space. So things that are beautiful, things that are lovely, just have your sacred space. So when you enter into the space, then you automatically feel lifted. Okay. And in that space is where you can pray, you can meditate, you can go to be still, you can go to read. And the more that you add to the space, the holier it becomes. Okay. So that was the second one, create sacred space. The next one is to cleanse the energy around you. We're talking about spiritual boundaries. Cleanse the energy around you. My favorite go-tos are smudging. Actually, I can show you right now. I wasn't planning on doing this, but I can. I have this on my desk and I smudge. And so this is sage, and I think it has some rose petals in it as well, dried rose petals. But I burn it and, I just let the energy just fill the space. Okay, I open the windows. And especially if something like if the energy is filling off in my office or in the house, then I will smudge this, and I'm saying prayers and blessings as I do. And one of my other favorites, I'll show you this one as well, is Palo Santo. And this is just, it's a piece of wood from a particular type of tree called Palo Santo. And this is Palo Santo, but this one has been covered in dried petals, flower petals. You can see I burned this one quite a bit. It's so lovely. And again, same thing, just burn it, just let the incense fill the air while I'm saying my blessings and setting my intentions. Okay, so cleansing the space around you is another way to set spiritual boundaries. Okay, now the next one is, let me see, let me go to my notes. All right, the next one is to be mindful of the energy that is external to you. Okay, be mindful of the energy that is external to you. Be mindful of what belongs to you and what does not. And as you are, especially when you're first starting on this journey with awakening and trying to, step onto that conscious spiritual path, then you have to be very particular about what you allow into your space, right? Whether that's people or information. My go-to is, does it serve me or not? If being in the company of these people serves me and feeds me, then great. If it doesn't, if I'm really challenged from that, then I'm going to try to set some boundaries to remove myself from that situation, if possible. Usually it is possible, okay? So being clear of what belongs to you, what does not belong to you, and then just being mindful of the energy that is around you, okay? Now, I always say that when you are first starting out, and with awakening and learning some of these concepts, you're building your spiritual muscles. So some of the people, for example, that you hang out with or have, been a part of your life, and you might get to a point where it just doesn't feel good to be around them because they're at a certain vibe and you're trying to get to a different vibe. Initially, you might have to put some distance between yourself and that group of people. But it doesn't have to be always, because again, you're building your spiritual muscles. So maybe as you get stronger, you will get to the point where you can be in the presence of certain people without being thrown off too much or at all, but you have to know what is true for you. All right. The last thing that I want to share in the way of spiritual boundaries is communicating what you need. Communicate what you need to those around you. And I have a whole class that I teach on assertiveness, right? And it can be challenging when, doing that if we're not used to it, but you have to take baby steps in that direction. Tell the people around you what you need. Okay. The example that's coming to mind for me is talking to my husband and just whether it's, I don't know, maybe it's a situation where we've been having a conversation that didn't feel right, or maybe we're trying to manage a situation that's not feeling right. Then I've learned and I've trained myself to get to the point where I express that, to say, okay, I know this is what's happening. Let me tell you what I'm thinking, what I'm feeling, and let me tell you what I would like from you. Okay. And like I said, it can be difficult if we're not used to having those types of conversations, but we have to communicate with the folks in our lives to let them know what we need. And that is a huge part of boundary setting. Okay. So to close, I will say this. I have gotten to the point where I am committed to living this fundamental truth. And that is that no one will outlove me on loving me. No one's going to outlove me on loving me. And I understand that in order for me to be who and what I am supposed to be in this world, I have to first get what I need for myself. Okay, whether that's space or whatever. My first commitment is to me. And that is what allows me, again, to be who I'm supposed to be in the world. Okay, so that's all that I have on the topic of spiritual boundaries. I hope that there was something in there for you to grab onto. Okay. All right. See you in the next video. Bye.